There is a gentle truth the Buddha often pointed toward. Suffering becomes heavier when we believe we must carry it alone. Many people move through life quietly carrying more than anyone else can see. Responsibilities, worries, grief, disappointment, the pressure to keep going when the heart feels tired. Some burdens arrive suddenly through loss or change. Others accumulate slowly, year after year, until one day you realize how exhausted you have become. Perhaps you know this feeling. You finish everything that needed to be done, yet your mind still refuses to rest. You lie awake replaying conversations, worrying about tomorrow, wondering how much longer you can keep carrying everything on your shoulders. Outwardly, life may look manageable. Inwardly, it can feel as though you are walking uphill with a weight that never gets lighter. Buddhist wisdom does not ask us to pretend that life is easy. It does not tell us to ignore pain or force ourselves to be positive. Instead, it begins with something much more compassionate. It begins by acknowledging that being human is sometimes difficult. We all experience moments when the road feels long, when uncertainty feels overwhelming, and when the heart grows weary from holding too much. Yet within that recognition lies a quiet invitation. What if not every burden needs to be carried forever? What if some of the heaviness comes not from life itself, but from the stories, fears, and expectations we continue holding long after they have served their purpose? Like a traveler who has forgotten he can set down his bags, many of us continue carrying worries that belong to tomorrow, regrets that belong to yesterday, and responsibilities that were never truly ours to bear. We grip tightly because we believe it keeps us safe. But often, the tighter we hold, the more exhausted we become. In this reflection, we will explore timeless Buddhist wisdom for those moments when life feels too heavy. Through gentle stories, mindful insights, and simple truths about acceptance, resilience, and letting go, you may discover that peace is not something you must earn. Sometimes it begins the moment you stop fighting what cannot be changed and allow yourself to rest in the life that is already here. For now, take a slow breath. Let your shoulders soften. There is nothing you need to solve right this moment. Just listen and allow these words to keep you company for a little while. There is a quiet truth about being human that many people rarely say out loud. Sometimes the heart becomes tired long before the body does. A person can continue showing up to work, answering messages, paying bills, caring for family, smiling in conversations, and doing everything they are supposed to do, while inside, they feel as though they are carrying a weight that grows heavier with each passing day. The difficult part is that this kind of exhaustion is often invisible. People can see a broken arm. People can see a fever. People can see tears. But they cannot always see the burden of constant worry. They cannot see the anxiety that wakes someone up in the middle of the night. They cannot see the loneliness hidden behind a polite smile. They cannot see the pressure someone places upon themselves every day to remain strong when they no longer feel strong. Many people listening may know exactly what this feels like. Perhaps you have been carrying responsibilities for so long that you no longer remember what it feels like to be truly rested. Perhaps you have been worrying about someone you love. Perhaps you have been grieving a loss that other people think you should have moved on from by now. Perhaps you are exhausted by uncertainty, by financial pressure, by health concerns, by relationships, or simply by trying to keep everything together. The strange thing about emotional burdens is that they rarely arrive all at once. Most of the time, they accumulate slowly. One disappointment, One stressful season, one difficult conversation, one unexpected setback, one sleepless night, one year becoming another, until eventually a person wakes up one morning and realizes they are carrying far more than they were ever meant to carry alone. Yet many people never allow themselves to acknowledge this truth. Instead, they say, "I'm fine." They say it to co-workers. They say it to friends. They say it to family. Eventually, they even begin saying it to themselves. Modern life often rewards this kind of performance. We admire productivity. We praise resilience. We celebrate people who keep going no matter what. There is value in perseverance, of course, but there is also a hidden danger. Sometimes strength becomes a mask. Sometimes people become so focused on appearing okay that they stop noticing how deeply exhausted they really are. A person may continue functioning while quietly falling apart inside. A parent may spend years caring for everyone else while neglecting their own emotional needs. A professional may continue achieving goals while feeling increasingly empty. A student may appear successful while battling overwhelming anxiety. A caregiver may spend so much time supporting others that they forget they also need support. The human heart is remarkably resilient, but it is not designed to carry endless weight without rest. Why, then, do so many people keep pretending they are fine? Part of the reason is fear. If we admit we are struggling, we fear becoming a burden. If we admit we are tired, we fear appearing weak. If we admit we are hurting, we fear judgment. Many people learned early in life that vulnerability was dangerous. Perhaps they were told to toughen up. Perhaps they were praised only when they succeeded. Perhaps they grew accustomed to taking care of others while ignoring their own needs. Over time, a habit develops. Instead of asking for help, they carry more. Instead of resting, they push harder. Instead of acknowledging pain, they suppress it. At first, this strategy seems to work. But emotional pain rarely disappears simply because it is ignored. More often, it waits patiently beneath the surface. The mind becomes busier. Sleep becomes lighter. Irritability increases. Joy becomes harder to access. Things that once felt manageable begin feeling overwhelming. The burden grows heavier. And still, many people continue telling themselves they should be able to handle it. This is where Buddhist wisdom offers something profoundly compassionate. The Buddha did not begin his teaching by talking about perfection. He did not begin by promising that life would always be peaceful or easy. He began by acknowledging something every human being experiences. Life contains suffering. At first glance, this teaching can sound pessimistic, but it is actually one of the most comforting observations ever made. The Buddha was not saying that life is only suffering. He was saying that struggle is part of being human. Loss happens. Disappointment happens. Illness happens. Fear happens. Aging happens. Stress happens. Heartbreak happens. No one escapes these experiences completely. This truth matters because many people secretly believe their suffering means they are failing. They think, if I were stronger, I wouldn't feel this way. If I were wiser, I wouldn't struggle. If I were doing life correctly, I wouldn't be so tired. But the Buddha's insight points in another direction. Your pain does not mean you are broken. Your exhaustion does not mean you are weak. Your struggles do not mean you have failed. They mean you are human. There is tremendous relief in this realization. Much of emotional suffering becomes heavier when we believe we should not be experiencing it. We suffer, and then we suffer about suffering. We feel anxious, and then we criticize ourselves for feeling anxious. We feel sad, and then we judge ourselves for being sad. We feel overwhelmed, and then we wonder why we cannot simply handle everything better. The Buddha gently interrupted this cycle. He invited people to begin not with judgment, but with understanding. Not with self-criticism, but with awareness. Not with resistance, but with compassion. Imagine how different life might feel if, instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" we asked, "What am I carrying?" That question changes everything. Because often the problem is not weakness. The problem is weight. A person carrying 50 pounds feels tired. A person carrying 100 pounds feels more tired. The solution is not self-criticism. The solution is recognizing the burden. This brings us to Emma, a nurse in her early 40s who worked in a busy emergency department in Chicago. Most people who knew her described her as dependable. She was the person colleagues called when shifts needed coverage. She was the person patients trusted because she listened carefully. She was the person friends turned to during difficult times. From the outside, Emma appeared strong. Yet very few people knew what her days actually looked like. She often worked 12-hour shifts. She spent her days helping frightened families, caring for sick patients, and making difficult decisions under pressure. When her shift ended, she returned home to care for her aging father. She answered messages, paid bills, managed responsibilities, and prepared for the next day. Then she repeated the process again and again. Years passed this way. One evening, after an especially difficult week, Emma sat alone in her car outside the hospital. She had just finished another exhausting shift. Rain tapped softly against the windshield. For several minutes, she simply stared ahead. Not crying, not speaking, just sitting, feeling tired in a way sleep alone could not fix. As she sat there, a colleague named Rachel approached the car and knocked gently on the window. Emma rolled it down. "You okay?" Rachel asked. Emma smiled automatically. "I'm fine." Rachel looked at her for a moment and then said something unexpected. "No. That's your usual answer." "How are you really?" The question lingered between them. Emma opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. For the first time in years, she realized she genuinely did not know how to answer. Because beneath the routine, beneath the responsibilities, beneath the strength everyone admired, there was a truth she had spent a very long time avoiding. She was exhausted. Not because she lacked courage. Not because she lacked resilience. Not because she was failing. But because she had been carrying more weight than any human heart could carry forever. As rain continued to fall across the windshield, Emma sat quietly with that realization. For years, she had believed that healing meant becoming stronger, more efficient, more capable, more able to carry everything without complaint. Yet sitting there in the dim light of the parking lot, another possibility slowly emerged. Perhaps healing did not begin by learning how to carry more. Perhaps healing began by finally telling the truth about what was already too heavy. And as that realization settled gently into her heart, a question began to arise. If acknowledging the burden could feel this relieving, what else might become possible once she stopped pretending she had to carry it all alone? As Emma sat in her car that evening, something important had already begun to change. Her circumstances were the same. The hospital was still busy. Her responsibilities had not disappeared. The people who depended on her still needed her. Yet for the first time in a long while, she had stopped pretending that she was unaffected by the weight she carried. And sometimes that small moment of honesty becomes the beginning of healing. Modern psychology has a word for what Emma was experiencing: burnout. Many people think burnout is simply working too much, but researchers have discovered that it is far more complex than that. Burnout often occurs when a person spends a long period carrying emotional demands without adequate recovery. It is not merely physical fatigue. It is emotional exhaustion. It is the feeling that no matter how much energy you give, there is never enough. It is waking up tired after a full night of sleep. It is feeling disconnected from things that once brought joy. It is becoming overwhelmed by tasks that previously felt manageable. What is important to understand is that burnout is not a personal failure. It is not evidence that someone is weak. In many cases, burnout develops in precisely the people who care the most. Teachers who want to help every student, nurses who want to comfort every patient, parents who sacrifice endlessly for their children, caregivers who place everyone else's needs before their own, professionals who feel responsible for every outcome. These are often the people most vulnerable to emotional exhaustion. The brain itself provides clues about why this happens. When a person lives under prolonged stress, the nervous system remains on high alert. The body produces stress hormones designed to help us survive difficult situations. In short bursts, this response is useful. It helps us react quickly to danger. But when stress becomes constant, the system never fully switches off. The mind remains vigilant. Sleep becomes lighter. Recovery becomes more difficult. Over time, even small challenges begin to feel enormous because the internal reserves have been depleted. Many people blame themselves for reaching this point. They think they should be able to push harder. They tell themselves to be stronger. Yet if a warning light appears on a car dashboard, we do not become angry at the light. We understand that the light is providing information. Burnout functions in much the same way. It is not punishment. It is communication. It is the mind and body saying, something needs attention. This perspective changes everything. Instead of asking, what is wrong with me? A person can begin asking, what is my exhaustion trying to tell me? Perhaps it is revealing a need for rest. Perhaps it is revealing grief that has never been processed. Perhaps it is revealing expectations that have become impossible to maintain. Perhaps it is revealing a life that has become unbalanced. The signal itself is not the enemy. The signal is an invitation. Many people spend years fighting their exhaustion because they believe acknowledging it will make them weaker. Yet the opposite is often true. What begins to happen when we finally admit we are tired is surprisingly beautiful. The struggle softens. The mask becomes unnecessary. The endless performance begins to relax. There is something deeply healing about telling the truth. Not necessarily to the whole world, sometimes simply to ourselves. For years, a person may say, I can handle it. Then one day they quietly admit, this is hard. For years they may insist, "I don't need help." Then one day they whisper, "I could use some support." For years they may force themselves to keep moving. Then one day they allow themselves to pause. That pause is not weakness. It is wisdom. The Buddha often emphasized awareness because awareness is where transformation begins. We cannot care for a burden we refuse to acknowledge. We cannot heal a wound we pretend does not exist. We cannot offer compassion to a part of ourselves we keep hidden. When awareness enters, something remarkable becomes possible. The exhausted person stops fighting their exhaustion. The grieving person stops judging their grief. The anxious person stops attacking themselves for feeling anxious. A softer relationship with suffering begins to emerge. And from that softer relationship, energy slowly returns. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But gradually, like dawn arriving after a long night. For anyone whose mind feels overloaded right now, there is a simple practice worth exploring. There is no need to change anything. No need to force relaxation. Simply notice your breathing. Notice the inhale. Notice the exhale. Nothing complicated. Nothing mystical. Just breathing. Allow the breath to move naturally. As you inhale, quietly think, "I am here." As you exhale, quietly think, "I can soften." Again, "I am here. I can soften." You do not need to solve your problems during this breath. You do not need to fix your future during this breath. You do not need to carry tomorrow during this breath. For a few moments, simply let the breath carry you. Notice how the body feels. Notice the places where tension gathers. Perhaps the shoulders, the jaw, the chest, the stomach. Without forcing anything, imagine each exhale creating a little more space. A little less gripping. A little less effort. A little less pressure. The burdens may still exist, but for this moment, they do not need to be held so tightly. This is one of the quiet gifts of mindfulness. It reminds us that while we cannot always control our circumstances, we can create small moments of refuge within them. And perhaps that is enough for now. Not solving everything. Not fixing everything. Simply creating a little room to breathe. The truth is that many people have been carrying life as though they must carry it alone. They shoulder responsibilities without asking for support. They hide struggles behind smiles. They convince themselves that needing help is a sign of weakness. Yet human beings were never meant to live entirely alone. Even the strongest people need encouragement. Even the wisest people need companionship. Even the most resilient hearts need rest. If your heart feels heavy, there is nothing shameful about that. If you are tired, there is nothing wrong with you. If you have been carrying more than anyone realizes, your exhaustion makes sense. Perhaps the most compassionate thing you can remember is this: you do not have to carry every burden by yourself. Not every worry belongs on your shoulders. Not every responsibility is yours alone. Not every struggle must be endured in silence. Sometimes healing begins the moment we stop asking ourselves to be invincible. Sometimes healing begins the moment we allow ourselves to be human. And sometimes, after a long season of carrying too much, the heart discovers that what it needed most was not more strength, but more kindness. One of the most compassionate teachings of the Buddha begins with a distinction that many people never notice. Pain and suffering are not exactly the same thing. They often arrive together, so closely intertwined that they appear inseparable, yet they are different experiences. Pain belongs to life. Suffering is often what happens when the mind struggles against life. Every human being encounters pain. No one escapes disappointment. No one escapes loss. No one escapes moments when the heart breaks, plans fail, relationships change, health declines, or uncertainty arrives uninvited. These experiences are woven into the fabric of being human. Yet if you look carefully, you may notice that the pain itself is not always what exhausts us the most. Often, it is everything we add to the pain afterward. A difficult event happens, and then the mind begins constructing an entire world around it. We replay it. We resist it. We argue with it. We wish it had never happened. We imagine how things should have been different. We fear it will happen again. We carry it into tomorrow, next month, next year. What began as one painful moment slowly becomes a burden that follows us everywhere. This is why two people can experience similar difficulties and yet suffer so differently. One person encounters loss and eventually finds a way to move forward. Another remains trapped inside the same loss for years. One person experiences rejection and allows the wound to heal over time. Another relives the rejection every day, reopening the wound again and again. The difference is not always the event itself. Often, the difference lies in the relationship each person develops with the pain. The Buddha explained this through a teaching often called the second arrow. Imagine a person walking through a forest who is struck by an arrow. The first arrow causes pain. That pain is real. No wisdom can pretend otherwise. No spiritual teaching asks us to deny it. The wound hurts because wounds hurt. But then imagine the same person, in panic and confusion, picking up a second arrow and shooting themselves again. The second wound was unnecessary. The Buddha suggested that much of human suffering follows a similar pattern. The first arrow is the painful event itself. The illness, the loss, the criticism, the disappointment, the fear, the betrayal, the grief. The second arrow is everything the mind adds afterward. Why did this happen to me? This should not be happening. I will never recover. My life is ruined. What if things get worse? I should have done something differently. The original pain may have lasted minutes, hours, or days. The second arrow can last decades. Many people listening know exactly what this feels like. Perhaps there is something from years ago that still visits your thoughts. A conversation that ended badly. A mistake you cannot forgive yourself for. A relationship that ended differently than you hoped. A moment when someone hurt you. A decision you wish you had never made. Notice how often the suffering comes not from the original event, but from the countless times the mind returns to it. The event happened once. The remembering happens thousands of times. The wound occurred in the past. The suffering keeps being recreated in the present. Modern psychology offers fascinating insight into why this happens. The brain is not trying to torture us. It is trying to protect us. Human beings evolved in environments where remembering danger increased the chances of survival. Our ancestors benefited from recalling threats. The brain learned to pay special attention to painful experiences because painful experiences often contained important lessons. As a result, negative events leave stronger impressions than positive ones. A person can receive kindness from 10 people and criticism from one, yet spend the entire evening thinking about the criticism. The mind naturally moves toward unresolved threats. It searches for explanations. It looks for patterns. It tries to prevent future harm. Unfortunately, this protective mechanism sometimes becomes overactive. Instead of helping us learn from an experience, it traps us inside it. Researchers have found that when people repeatedly revisit distressing memories without resolution, the brain often reacts as though the event is happening again. The body responds. Muscles tighten. Stress hormones increase. The nervous system becomes activated. The memory is old, but the emotional experience feels current. This is one reason why people can become exhausted by events that happened long ago. The mind keeps bringing them into the present. It is not merely remembering. It is reliving. Perhaps nowhere is this more visible than during the quiet hours of the night. During the day, distractions are plentiful. There are tasks to complete, conversations to have, places to go. But when the world becomes quiet, the mind often grows louder. Many people lie awake not because they are physically uncomfortable, but because their thoughts refuse to rest. They revisit old arguments. They imagine different outcomes. They replay embarrassing moments. They worry about things they cannot change. The body is lying safely in bed, yet the mind continues fighting battles that ended long ago. An old Zen story tells of a man named Hiroshi who carried such a battle for most of his adult life. When Hiroshi was a young man, he attended a gathering in a neighboring village. During a disagreement, another man publicly insulted him. The words were harsh. The humiliation was intense. People laughed. Hiroshi felt his face burn with shame. He left the gathering feeling wounded and angry. The event lasted only a few minutes. Yet those few minutes became one of the defining experiences of his life. For 20 years, he carried the memory everywhere he went. He replayed the conversation while working. He replayed it while eating. He replayed it while walking. He replayed it before falling asleep. He imagined all the responses he should have given. He imagined defending himself. He imagined proving the other man wrong. Decades passed. The man who insulted him moved away. Most people forgot the incident entirely. Life continued. Yet inside Hiroshi's mind, the event remained alive. Eventually, Hiroshi heard about an elderly Zen teacher who lived in the mountains. Hoping to find peace, he traveled there and shared his story. He described the insult in remarkable detail. 20 years had passed, yet every word remained vivid in his memory. When he finished speaking, the teacher remained silent for a long time. Finally, he asked, "When did this happen?" Hiroshi replied, 20 years ago. The teacher nodded. "And where is the man who insulted you now?" Hiroshi shrugged. "I do not know." The teacher poured tea into 2 small cups and gently pushed one toward his visitor. Then he asked another question. "If someone handed you a heavy stone 20 years ago, would you still be carrying it?" Hiroshi laughed softly. "Of course not." The teacher looked at him kindly and said, Then why are you still carrying these words? For a moment, Hiroshi could not respond. Something inside him shifted. The teacher continued. The man insulted you once. But how many times have you repeated the insult to yourself? Silence filled the room. Hiroshi stared into his tea. Slowly, he realized what the teacher meant. The original wound had happened only once. Yet he had reopened it thousands of times. The man who hurt him had long since disappeared from his life. But he himself had become the keeper of the wound. He had carried it through every season, every year, every chapter of his life. And sitting there in the quiet mountain monastery, another possibility began to emerge. Perhaps the weight he felt was no longer coming from the insult itself. Perhaps it was coming from the effort of carrying it. Perhaps resistance had become heavier than the original pain. And if that were true, what else in life becomes unbearable, not because it is painful, but because we refuse to stop fighting with its existence? If we look honestly at our lives, we may discover that some of our deepest suffering does not come from what happened to us. It comes from what we continue saying to ourselves after it happened. This is one of the most overlooked forms of the second arrow. The first arrow may be a mistake, a failure, a rejection, a painful decision, or a season of loss. The second arrow often arrives disguised as self-criticism. It sounds like a voice inside the mind that never seems satisfied. You should have known better. You always ruin things. Why can't you be stronger? Everyone else handles life better than you do. You should be over this by now. Many people live with this voice for so long that they stop questioning it. They assume it is helping them improve. They believe it is keeping them accountable. Yet if a friend spoke to us the way we often speak to ourselves, we would immediately recognize how cruel it sounds. The tragedy is that the mind can become both the wounded person and the one repeatedly reopening the wound. A painful experience occurs, and instead of receiving compassion, the heart receives criticism. Instead of receiving understanding, it receives judgment. Instead of receiving patience, it receives pressure. The suffering doubles. Think of how many people lie awake, carrying not only their difficulties, but also shame about having those difficulties. Someone struggles with anxiety and then feels ashamed for being anxious. Someone experiences grief and then feels guilty for not recovering quickly enough. Someone feels exhausted and then criticizes themselves for being tired. Someone makes a mistake and then spends years punishing themselves long after the consequences have passed. The original pain may have been difficult enough, yet the second arrow transforms a burden into a prison. The Buddha's wisdom invites us to see something profoundly liberating. We do not always control the first arrow. We do not control illness, aging, loss, disappointment, uncertainty, or the countless changes life brings. But we do have some influence over the second arrow. We can learn to notice when the mind begins fighting reality. We can learn to recognize when we are adding fear to pain, resistance to difficulty, judgment to sadness, and shame to struggle. This awareness does not make problems disappear. It changes our relationship with them. Something remarkable begins to happen when we stop arguing with reality. At first, this sounds impossible because many people assume acceptance means liking what happened. It does not. Acceptance simply means acknowledging what is already true. A storm is easier to navigate once we stop insisting that the sky should be clear. Grief becomes more bearable once we stop demanding that we should not be grieving. Anxiety softens when we stop treating anxiety itself as the enemy. Sadness moves more freely when we stop resisting every trace of sadness. Much of the tension we carry comes not from experience itself, but from the exhausting effort to make experience different from what it is. Consider a person standing in the ocean while waves continue crashing against them. If they spend all their energy screaming at the waves to stop, they become exhausted very quickly. The ocean does not change. The waves continue arriving. Their struggle only adds another layer of suffering. But if they learn how to move with the water, something shifts. The waves still exist, yet the experience becomes less punishing. In many ways, emotions function similarly. Feelings are temporary movements within the mind. Fear rises and falls. Sadness rises and falls. Anger rises and falls. Grief rises and falls. Yet when we resist them, we often trap them in place. What wants to move becomes stuck. What wants to pass through remains. Many people discover this unexpectedly after a difficult season. They spend months fighting an emotion. Then one day they become too tired to continue fighting. They stop resisting. They stop pretending. They stop trying to force themselves into a different state. And strangely, that surrender creates space. Not because the pain disappears immediately, but because the war ends. Energy that was being used for resistance becomes available for healing. This is why acceptance is often misunderstood. Some people hear the word and assume it means weakness. They imagine acceptance as passive resignation. They think it means giving up, settling, or allowing life to walk all over them. Yet true acceptance is something entirely different. Acceptance is seeing clearly. It is having the courage to look directly at reality without denial. It is saying, this is what exists right now, even when we wish reality were different. In fact, acceptance often requires far more courage than resistance. Resistance is automatic. Acceptance is conscious. A person can accept that they are grieving and still continue living. A person can accept that they made a mistake and still learn from it. A person can accept uncertainty and still take wise action. A person can accept fear and still move forward. Acceptance does not remove responsibility. It removes unnecessary struggle. It allows us to respond rather than react. It creates space between pain and panic. The Buddha never taught that life should be free from difficulty. He taught that freedom becomes possible when we stop creating additional suffering around the difficulties that already exist. This does not happen overnight. Most people have spent years practicing resistance. The mind has become accustomed to fighting, controlling, predicting, judging, and replaying. Yet each moment of awareness creates another possibility. Each moment we notice the second arrow without firing, it is a small act of liberation. Perhaps there is something in your own life that comes to mind right now. A regret you continue carrying. A fear you continue feeding. A mistake you continue replaying. A wound you continue judging. Notice how much energy it requires to keep holding it. Notice how much effort goes into reliving it. Notice how many times the mind returns to the same place, hoping for a different outcome. Then gently ask yourself a simple question. What if the first arrow was enough? What if the pain itself did not need additional fear? What if the disappointment did not need additional self-criticism? What if the grief did not need additional shame? What if the mistake did not need a lifetime sentence? The first arrow may still hurt. Human life guarantees that there will be moments of pain, but perhaps we do not need to spend years firing the second arrow into the same wound. Perhaps we can begin treating ourselves with the same compassion we would offer someone we love. Perhaps we can learn to sit beside our pain rather than battle it. Perhaps we can allow difficult experiences to be part of our story without allowing them to become our identity. And as this understanding settles gently into the heart, something begins to soften. The burden becomes lighter. The mind becomes quieter. Not because life has become perfect, but because we are no longer adding unnecessary weight to what is already difficult. The first arrow may belong to life, yet the second arrow is often optional. And sometimes the beginning of peace is simply realizing that the wound does not need to be reopened one more time. A question that quietly follows many people through life is this: why do we feel so anxious when we do not know what will happen next? Why does uncertainty feel so uncomfortable? Why do our minds work so hard to predict, prepare, control, and manage every possible outcome? From a scientific perspective, the answer begins deep within the human brain. Long before modern cities, technology, and calendars existed, uncertainty often meant danger. Our ancestors survived because they learned to anticipate threats. They watched the weather. They paid attention to unusual sounds. They looked for signs of predators. The brain gradually evolved to treat uncertainty as something important. Even today, thousands of years later, the nervous system still prefers predictability. When we know what is happening, the brain feels safer. When we do not know, it begins searching for answers. This is why waiting for medical test results can feel exhausting. It is why uncertainty in relationships can keep someone awake at night. It is why people often fear not only difficult outcomes, but also the simple fact that they do not know what the outcome will be. Yet there is a hidden problem with this ancient survival mechanism. The modern world presents countless situations that cannot be controlled or predicted with certainty. We cannot fully control the economy. We cannot control other people's thoughts. We cannot control whether someone loves us, understands us, stays with us, or leaves. We cannot control every change in our health. We cannot control the future. Yet the mind continues trying. It continues scanning for certainty in a world where certainty rarely exists. And because complete certainty can never be found, many people spend enormous amounts of energy chasing something they can never fully possess. Consider how often the mind travels into tomorrow. A person lies in bed tonight worrying about next week. Next week arrives, and they worry about next month. Next month arrives, and they worry about next year. The future never truly arrives, because when it does, it becomes the present moment, and the mind immediately creates a new future to worry about. In this way, some people spend decades carrying tomorrows that never come. They rehearse conversations that may never happen. They imagine disasters that never occur. They build entire emotional realities around possibilities rather than realities. The body remains here, but the mind lives somewhere ahead. This habit is deeply exhausting because the future is infinitely expandable. There is always another possibility to consider, another scenario to analyze, another outcome to fear. The mind can continue this process forever because there is no natural endpoint. One worry leads to another. One uncertainty produces 10 more uncertainties. Eventually, a person feels burdened not only by life itself, but by the countless futures they are mentally carrying at the same time. Many people believe this constant worrying is a form of responsibility. They think, if I worry enough, I will be prepared. If I think about every possibility, nothing will catch me off guard. Yet, notice how rarely this strategy produces peace. It often creates the opposite. The more tightly we grip life, the more fragile everything feels. The more desperately we try to control outcomes, the more anxious we become whenever those outcomes remain uncertain. This is where one of the most liberating teachings in Buddhist wisdom begins to emerge: non-attachment. Unfortunately, this teaching is often misunderstood. Some people hear the phrase and imagine emotional distance, indifference, or a lack of caring. But non-attachment does not mean refusing to love. It does not mean withdrawing from life. It does not mean becoming cold or detached from other people. Rather, it means learning to hold life with an open hand instead of a clenched fist. Imagine holding a handful of sand. If you squeeze tightly, much of the sand slips through your fingers. The harder you grip, the more you lose. But if you hold your hand gently open, the sand remains. Non-attachment is similar. It invites us to participate fully in life without demanding guarantees from it. We can love deeply without trying to own another person. We can work diligently without becoming enslaved to outcomes. We can make plans without believing the future must unfold exactly as we imagine. We can care without controlling. The Buddha observed that much suffering comes from attachment, not because attachment means love, but because attachment often means insisting that reality conform to our desires. We become attached to specific outcomes, specific timelines, specific expectations, specific versions of how life should unfold. Then reality inevitably changes course, and we suffer not only because of what happened, but because of the gap between reality and expectation. Think about how often pain arises from the sentence, "This should not be happening." A relationship ends. A career changes direction. A loved one becomes ill. A plan fails. Beneath the pain often lives another layer of suffering, resistance. We argue with reality. We negotiate with it. We demand that it becomes something else. Yet reality rarely listens. Non-attachment is not about giving up on life. It is about releasing the illusion that life can be controlled into permanent obedience. It is about recognizing that we are participants in life, not its directors. We influence many things, but we do not command the universe. An old monastery story illustrates this beautifully. Many years ago, in a mountain monastery, there lived a young monk named Tenzin. Tenzin was sincere, disciplined, and deeply committed to his practice. Yet he struggled with one persistent frustration. He wanted perfect conditions for meditation. If the weather was too cold, he complained internally. If the weather was too hot, he became distracted. If birds sang outside his window, he wished for silence. If wind rattled the wooden walls of the monastery, irritation arose. Again and again, he found himself believing that peace would finally arrive once conditions became exactly right. One autumn afternoon, Tenzin sat in the meditation hall trying to concentrate. Strong winds swept through the mountains. The wooden beams creaked. Leaves scattered across the courtyard. The sound seemed impossible to ignore. Tenzin grew increasingly frustrated. After the meditation session ended, he approached the elderly abbot. "Master," he said, "I cannot meditate when the wind is this loud." The old monk smiled. "The wind is loud today." "Yes," Tenzin replied. "It disturbs my concentration." The abbot nodded gently. Then he asked, "How long have you been trying to stop the wind?" Tenzin frowned. "What do you mean?" The abbot stood and walked toward the open courtyard. The wind moved through the trees. Leaves danced across the stone path. "You sit in meditation," the abbot said, "and spend your energy wishing the wind would be different. You call it concentration, but much of the time you are simply trying to control what cannot be controlled." Tenzin remained silent. The old monk picked up a fallen leaf and held it in his hand. "The wind blows," he continued. "Leaves fall. Seasons change. Thoughts arise. People come and go. Conditions shift. If your peace depends on controlling all of these things, peace will always remain out of reach." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The wind continued moving through the monastery exactly as it had before. Nothing about the weather changed. Yet as Tenzin stood there listening, another possibility slowly began to appear. Perhaps the real struggle was not the wind itself. Perhaps the real struggle was his belief that the wind should not be blowing. And if that were true, how much of the suffering he carried in the rest of his life came not from circumstances beyond his control, but from the endless effort to control them anyway? As the young monk stood in the courtyard watching the wind move through the trees, a question slowly began to take shape within him. If so much of his suffering came from trying to control what could not be controlled, then what was actually within his control? It is one of the most important questions a human being can ask. Much of life becomes lighter when we stop confusing influence with control. The Buddha often encouraged people to direct their attention toward what truly belonged to them. Not the weather, not other people's choices, not the future, not the endless movement of circumstances. Instead, he pointed towards something much closer: our intentions, our actions, our responses, our choices in the present moment. This distinction seems simple, yet it transforms the way we live. We cannot control whether another person understands us, but we can choose to speak honestly. We cannot control whether our efforts succeed exactly as planned, but we can choose to act with care and integrity. We cannot control whether life unfolds according to our expectations, but we can choose how we meet what unfolds. Much of the suffering people experience comes from investing enormous emotional energy into things that were never theirs to command. They try to control outcomes instead of actions. They try to control people instead of their own behavior. They try to control tomorrow instead of participating fully in today. Imagine standing beside a river and attempting to direct every drop of water with your hands. No matter how determined you are, the river continues flowing. Eventually, exhaustion arrives. Yet if you stop fighting the current, you discover that your energy can be used for something far more meaningful. Life is similar. We waste tremendous amounts of strength attempting to manage realities that do not belong to us. Then we wonder why we feel depleted. Many people assume that letting go means losing something. In truth, letting go often returns something. It returns energy. It returns attention. It returns peace. Every day, countless people spend mental and emotional resources carrying burdens they cannot solve. They replay conversations. They monitor other people's opinions. They imagine future disasters. They attempt to predict every possible outcome. They remain trapped in a state of vigilance that never truly ends. The mind becomes like a guard standing watch 24 hours a day, scanning every horizon for danger. No wonder so many people feel tired. The remarkable thing is that the energy consumed by control rarely produces the security we hope for. In fact, it often creates the opposite. The more we try to control everything, the more fragile life feels. Every uncertainty becomes threatening. Every unexpected event becomes alarming. Every change becomes a potential crisis. The world begins to feel dangerous because our peace depends on conditions remaining exactly as we want them. But something extraordinary happens when we begin releasing the need to control what cannot be controlled. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. The mind is accustomed to gripping. It believes that holding tighter creates safety. Yet gradually another experience emerges. The shoulders soften. The nervous system relaxes. The endless calculations begin to slow down. Attention returns to the present moment. Energy that was trapped in worry becomes available for living. A woman who has spent years trying to manage everyone's happiness discovers she can finally breathe. A father who constantly worries about every future outcome realizes he can enjoy an evening with his children. A student who obsessively fears failure finds space to actually learn. A caregiver who feels responsible for everything begins recognizing the limits of what one human being can carry. Nothing external may have changed. Yet internally, something profound shifts. The battle becomes smaller. This is why non-attachment is often described as freedom. Not because life becomes predictable, not because pain disappears, but because we stop chaining our well-being to things that were never stable to begin with. Of course, at this point many people become nervous. They hear the words "let go" and immediately wonder whether letting go means becoming passive. If I stop controlling, won't everything fall apart? If I stop worrying, won't I become irresponsible? If I stop gripping life so tightly, won't I lose motivation? These concerns are understandable because letting go is frequently misunderstood. Letting go is not the same as giving up. Giving up says, nothing matters. Letting go says, I will do what I can and release what I cannot. Giving up abandons effort. Letting go abandons obsession. Giving up stops participating. Letting go participates fully while accepting uncertainty. A gardener provides a useful example. Imagine someone planting seeds in spring. They water the soil. They remove weeds. They care for the garden. These actions belong to them. Yet no amount of effort can force the flowers to bloom on command. Growth unfolds according to conditions larger than any individual. A wise gardener works diligently while understanding this truth. An anxious gardener digs up the seeds every day to check whether they are growing. One approach creates harmony. The other creates frustration. Many people approach life like the anxious gardener. They want guarantees. They want certainty. They want immediate results. They want proof that everything will work out. And because life rarely provides such guarantees, they remain trapped in tension. The Buddha's wisdom offers another possibility. We can act wholeheartedly without demanding certainty. We can love people without controlling them. We can pursue goals without attaching our identity to outcomes. We can make plans while remaining flexible. We can care deeply while holding gently. This is not weakness. It is maturity. It is trust. It is wisdom. It is recognizing that life has always contained uncertainty, and yet countless people have continued living, loving, growing, and healing within that uncertainty. Perhaps there is something in your own life that comes to mind right now. A burden you have been carrying. A problem you have been trying to solve. A situation you have been attempting to control. Maybe it involves another person. Maybe it involves the future. Maybe it involves a question that remains unanswered. Notice what happens if you gently ask yourself, is this truly within my control? Not whether it matters. Not whether it is important. Simply whether it is yours to control. Sometimes the answer is yes. If so, take the next wise step available to you. Sometimes the answer is no. If so, perhaps the burden can be carried differently. As this reflection draws to a close, there is a simple practice worth bringing into the quiet of this moment. You do not need to sit in a special posture. You do not need to force your mind to become perfectly calm. Simply allow yourself to become aware of your breathing. Notice the rise and fall of each breath. Then bring to mind one burden you have been carrying lately. Just one. It may be a worry, a fear, a responsibility, or an uncertainty. Hold it gently in awareness. Now ask yourself 3 questions. Have I done what I reasonably can? Am I trying to control something that does not belong to me? What would it feel like to loosen my grip, even slightly? There is no need to answer perfectly. There is no need to force anything. Simply notice. As you exhale, imagine setting the burden down for a moment. Not forever. Just for this breath. Then another breath. Then another. The future will still be there tomorrow. The unanswered questions will still exist tomorrow. The things beyond your control will remain beyond your control tomorrow. But for this moment, perhaps you do not need to carry them all. Perhaps you can allow yourself to experience what the young monk eventually discovered while standing in the monastery courtyard. The wind continues to blow. Life continues to change. The future remains uncertain. Yet peace becomes possible the moment we stop demanding that the wind obey us before we allow ourselves to rest. If this reflection spoke to your heart, share in the comments one thing you are learning to let go of. And if you'd like more peaceful Buddhist wisdom before sleep, consider subscribing and sharing this video with someone who may need it tonight. Few things unsettle the human heart more than change. Even when life is difficult, there is often a part of us that would rather remain in familiar discomfort than step into uncertainty. We become accustomed to people, routines, identities, expectations, and roles. We build our lives around what feels known. Then one day something shifts. A relationship changes. A job ends. A child grows up. A diagnosis arrives. A dream dissolves. A season of life quietly comes to an end. And suddenly, we find ourselves standing in unfamiliar territory. longing for what used to be. Part of what makes change so frightening is that it often arrives without asking permission. We like to imagine that life will unfold according to our plans. We create timelines. We make assumptions about how long things will last. We expect certain people to remain. We assume our bodies will continue functioning the way they always have. We expect circumstances to stay stable. Yet reality repeatedly reminds us that life does not offer such guarantees. The mind struggles with this truth because certainty feels safe. We want to know what comes next. We want assurance that what we love will remain. We want proof that difficult seasons will eventually end and that good seasons will last forever. Yet life rarely provides either promise. Instead, life moves. Quietly. Constantly. Unstoppably. Many people experience suffering not because change occurs, but because they spend enormous energy resisting it. They look at reality and insist that it should be different. They compare the present to the past. They fight the fact that time has moved forward. They cling to versions of life that no longer exist. The result is often exhaustion. Buddhist wisdom offers a different perspective. One of the central observations of the Buddha was that all conditioned things are impermanent. Everything that arises eventually changes. This is not a punishment. It is not a flaw in reality. It is simply the nature of reality itself. Our emotions change. Our thoughts change. Our bodies change. Our relationships change. Our circumstances change. Even our sense of identity changes. If you think back to who you were 10 years ago, you will probably notice that many things are different. Your priorities may have shifted. Your beliefs may have evolved. Your relationships may have transformed. The person reading these words now is not exactly the same person who existed years ago. Yet because change happens gradually, we often fail to notice it until something significant forces our attention. The Buddha encouraged people not to fear impermanence, but to understand it. When we understand impermanence, we stop demanding permanence from a world that cannot provide it. We stop expecting relationships to remain frozen in time. We stop expecting youth to last forever. We stop expecting circumstances to remain unchanged. We begin meeting life as it actually is, rather than as we wish it would be. This understanding becomes especially important when life brings loss. Many people believe impermanence is a pessimistic teaching because it reminds us that things end. But the Buddha saw something deeper. The very reason loss is possible is the same reason healing is possible. The very reason youth fades is the same reason pain eventually changes. The very reason seasons end is the same reason new seasons begin. Impermanence is not merely the reason things disappear. It is also the reason things grow. Without change, grief would last forever. Without change, wounds would never heal. Without change, difficult chapters would never end. Without change, no new possibilities could emerge. One of the most moving stories in Buddhist tradition illustrates this truth through the experience of a woman named Kisa Gotami. She was a young mother who loved her son deeply. When the child became ill and died, her grief overwhelmed her completely. Unable to accept what had happened, she carried the child's body through the village, searching desperately for someone who could bring him back to life. People pitied her. Some avoided her. Others gently tried to explain that death could not be reversed. But grief had closed her ears to every answer. Eventually, someone suggested that she seek out the Buddha. Filled with hope, Kisa Gotami approached him and pleaded for help. "My son is dead," she said. "Please, tell me how to bring him back." The Buddha listened with great compassion. Then he replied, "I can help you. First, bring me a mustard seed from a household that has never experienced death." Relieved, Kisa Gotami hurried into the village. Surely such a household existed somewhere. She knocked on the first door. "Have you ever experienced death in this family?" she asked. The woman who answered nodded sadly. "Yes. My father died many years ago." Kisa Gotami moved on to another house. Again, she asked. Again, the answer was yes. Another house. Another loss. Another family. Another story of grief. As the day continued, she heard story after story. A mother mourning a daughter. A husband mourning a wife. Children mourning parents. Families mourning loved ones. Every door revealed the same truth. Death had visited every home. Loss had touched every family. Suffering was not hers alone. As evening approached, something began to soften inside her. For the first time since her son's death, she looked beyond her own grief and saw the shared vulnerability of human life. The sorrow she carried was real, but it was not unique. She was not being singled out by fate. She was participating in a reality that touched every human being. When she returned to the Buddha, she carried no mustard seed. Instead, she carried understanding. The story is not meant to erase grief. Kisa Gotami still loved her son. She still mourned his loss. Yet something had changed. Her suffering was no longer fueled by the belief that life should have been exempt from impermanence. She began seeing what the Buddha wanted her to see. Everything that is born eventually changes. Everything that arises eventually passes. Every season eventually transforms. This realization is difficult, but it is also deeply liberating. Many people spend years trying to preserve chapters that have already ended. They continue carrying old identities, old expectations, old relationships, and old versions of themselves long after life has moved forward. They look backward with longing and forward with fear, never fully noticing what is trying to emerge in the present. Yet if impermanence means that beautiful things end, it also means that painful things end. If impermanence means we cannot keep everything, it also means we do not have to remain trapped in any one season forever. And perhaps that is where the hidden gift begins to reveal itself. Perhaps endings are not merely losses. Perhaps they are also doorways. Perhaps the closing of one chapter quietly creates space for another. Perhaps what feels like the end of something is sometimes the beginning of something we cannot yet see. And if that is true, then what changes become possible when we stop viewing impermanence as an enemy and begin seeing it as the very force that makes healing, growth, and renewal possible? One of the most difficult truths about being human is that love and grief often live side by side. We tend to think of grief as something separate from love, something that arrives after love has ended, but in many ways, grief is simply love continuing after life has changed. We grieve because we cared. We ache because something mattered. We feel the emptiness because something once filled that space. A person does not mourn what was meaningless. They mourn what touched the heart. This is why grief often feels so confusing. Part of us understands that change is natural, yet another part of us keeps reaching toward what once was. We replay old conversations. We revisit old memories. We imagine alternate versions of events. We silently negotiate with reality. We wish the relationship had lasted longer. We wish the person had stayed. We wish the chapter had not ended. We wish we could return to a previous version of ourselves. Yet beneath all those wishes is something very simple and very human, the desire to keep what we love. The difficulty is that life was never designed to remain still. Everything changes, including the people we love, the bodies we inhabit, the circumstances we depend upon, and even the identities we build around ourselves. Many people spend years resisting this reality. They tell themselves they should be over the loss by now. They should be stronger. They should not still feel sad. But healing rarely follows a schedule. The heart does not move according to deadlines. It moves according to understanding. And often the first step toward understanding is recognizing that grief itself is not the enemy. Resistance is often what creates the deepest suffering. The pain of loss is natural. The struggle against the loss is what makes the burden heavier. Imagine holding a handful of water. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. The harder you fight reality, the more exhausted you become. Yet when the hand relaxes, something changes. The water still moves. Life still changes. But the struggle softens. The Buddha taught that suffering grows when we demand permanence from what is impermanent. This does not mean we stop loving. It means we stop asking life to provide guarantees it was never able to provide. Every relationship enters life through change and eventually leaves through change. Every joyful moment arrives through change and departs through change. Every painful season also arrives through change and departs through change. This truth is difficult, but it contains an unexpected kindness. The same impermanence that allows loss also allows healing. The same force that takes away is the force that makes renewal possible. Imagine for a moment that nothing ever changed. No grief would fade. No wound would heal. No difficult chapter would end. No new beginning could emerge. We often focus on the painful side of impermanence while forgetting its compassionate side. Change is the reason recovery exists. Change is the reason broken hearts eventually breathe more easily. Change is the reason winter does not last forever. Change is the reason no emotional state remains permanent. There are people listening to these words who once believed they would never survive a certain loss. They believed the pain would remain exactly as intense forever. Yet somehow life continued. The grief may still exist, but it changed. The wound may still be remembered, but it changed. The person carrying it changed. Impermanence continued its quiet work. Sometimes healing happens so slowly that we fail to notice it. We look for dramatic transformation and overlook the subtle ways life has already moved. A memory that once caused tears now causes reflection. A name that once shattered the heart now brings a bittersweet smile. A chapter that once defined an entire identity becomes only one part of a much larger story. What changed? Often nothing external. time moved. Understanding deepened. Life continued unfolding. This invites an important question. What would healing look like if you stopped resisting change? Not if you forced yourself to feel positive. Not if you pretended everything was fine. Not if you rushed toward acceptance. Simply if you stopped demanding that reality return to a version that no longer exists. Many people unknowingly place their lives on hold while waiting for the past to come back. They wait for a relationship to become what it once was. They wait for a person to return. They wait for circumstances to reverse. They wait for a version of themselves that can never fully reappear because life has already moved forward. Yet healing begins when we stop asking the river to flow backward and start learning how to travel with the current. This does not mean approving of every change. It does not mean liking every ending. It simply means recognizing what is already true. Life is moving. The seasons are changing. Reality is unfolding. The question is no longer whether change will happen. The question becomes how we will meet it. There is a quiet wisdom in nature that humans often overlook. Spring never tries to remain spring forever. Summer does not cling to itself when autumn arrives. Trees do not negotiate with falling leaves. Rivers do not refuse to flow. The natural world trusts movement. Yet human beings often fight it. We cling to old identities long after we have outgrown them. We hold tightly to expectations that no longer fit reality. We resist transitions because they force us into unfamiliar territory. But growth has always required unfamiliar territory. No child becomes an adult without change. No lesson is learned without change. No healing occurs without change. The person you are today was shaped by countless changes you once feared. There were moments in your past that probably felt unbearable. Moments when you believed nothing good could come from what was happening. Yet looking back, some of those experiences may have shaped strengths you value today. This does not mean suffering is good. It means transformation is possible. The future version of you is already being shaped by experiences you do not fully understand yet. Perhaps this difficult season is not only taking something away, perhaps it is also creating space. Space for wisdom. Space for compassion. Space for a new way of seeing life. Space for a version of yourself that has not fully emerged yet. The heart often believes that letting go means losing something. Yet sometimes letting go allows us to receive something we could not access while our hands were full. A person who releases bitterness discovers peace. A person who releases unrealistic expectations discovers freedom. A person who releases the need to control every outcome discovers trust. A person who releases an old identity discovers growth. Life continues offering invitations into deeper understanding, but those invitations often arrive disguised as endings. The end of certainty. The end of a chapter. The end of a dream. The end of a season. And because endings feel painful, we often miss the hidden opening within them. Yet almost every meaningful transformation begins with some form of ending. As you reflect on your own life, perhaps there is a change you are still struggling to accept. Perhaps there is a chapter that ended before you were ready. Perhaps there is a loss you continue carrying. Perhaps there is a future you expected that never arrived. If so, There is no need to force yourself to feel differently. There is no need to rush. Simply notice what happens when you stop fighting the fact that life has changed. Notice what happens when you allow reality to be reality, even if it is not the reality you would have chosen. Notice what happens when you stop demanding permanence from a world built upon movement. Little by little, space begins to appear. Breathing becomes easier. The nervous system softens. The heart loosens its grip. Not because the loss disappears, but because the struggle against the loss begins to fade. And within that softening, another possibility emerges. The possibility that this difficult chapter is changing too. The possibility that healing is already happening in ways you cannot fully see. The possibility that life is quietly carrying you forward even when you feel stuck. The possibility that impermanence is not merely the source of loss, but also the source of hope. Because if everything changes, then this sorrow changes. If everything changes, then this fear changes. If everything changes, then this loneliness changes. If everything changes, then this chapter changes. And perhaps that is why trusting life's seasons is not an act of blind optimism, but an act of wisdom. It is recognizing that life has always moved. It has always unfolded. It has always carried both endings and beginnings within the same current. You do not need to know exactly where the river is leading. You do not need every answer tonight. You do not need certainty about what comes next. The seasons know how to change without your control. The dawn arrives without your effort. Healing unfolds without your constant management. Life continues moving in ways both visible and invisible. And perhaps, as you sit quietly with that understanding, you can allow yourself to trust what countless seasons have already demonstrated. Nothing remains exactly as it is forever. Not joy, not sorrow, not success, not loss, not confusion, not clarity. Everything moves. Everything transforms. Everything evolves. And somewhere within that movement, life continues, creating opportunities for healing, growth, renewal, and peace. The same impermanence that once brought you through every difficult season before is still at work now, gently, patiently, quietly carrying this chapter forward as well. There is a quiet kind of suffering that many people carry without anyone else noticing. It does not always look dramatic from the outside. Sometimes it appears as a person sitting silently at the dinner table. Sometimes it appears as someone lying awake long after midnight. Sometimes it appears as a smile that hides a mind crowded with thoughts. The burden is not always what is happening right now. More often, it comes from living somewhere other than the present moment. The body may be here, but the mind is elsewhere. It wanders backward into old memories or races forward into imagined futures. And somewhere in that endless movement, the simplicity of this moment is forgotten. Many people spend years living in yesterday. They replay conversations they wish had gone differently. They revisit mistakes they made long ago. They carry regret like a heavy suitcase from one season of life into the next. The mind becomes convinced that if it examines the past enough times, it will finally discover a way to change it. So it returns again and again to old scenes. It replays arguments. It analyzes decisions. It imagines alternate outcomes. It asks endless questions. What if I had said something different? What if I had stayed? What if I had left sooner? What if I had made another choice? These questions can become so familiar that people stop noticing how much energy they consume. Regret often disguises itself as responsibility. We tell ourselves that thinking about the past is helping us learn. Sometimes it is. Reflection can be wise. Learning from experience is important. But there is a difference between learning from the past and living inside it. Learning helps us move forward. Living in the past keeps us standing still. Many people are not suffering because of what happened years ago. They are suffering because they continue reliving what happened years ago every single day. The event occurred once, but the memory is replayed hundreds or thousands of times. The wound is reopened again and again. A difficult chapter becomes an ongoing residence rather than a completed page in the story. Regret can be especially painful because it creates the illusion that the past is still negotiable. Deep down, part of the mind refuses to accept that a chapter has ended. It continues bargaining with reality. It searches for a door that no longer exists. Yet no amount of thinking can alter what has already happened. The past has completed its journey. The people involved have changed. Life has moved forward. Time has continued flowing. Yet the mind remains behind, carrying conversations that are over and burdens that belong to another season. At the same time, many people live not in yesterday, but in tomorrow. If regret traps us in the past, anxiety often traps us in the future. Anxiety is the mind's attempt to arrive somewhere before life does. It imagines problems that have not appeared. It rehearses disasters that may never happen. It creates entire worlds of uncertainty and then reacts to those imagined worlds as though they were real. Someone worries about a conversation next week. Another person worries about retirement decades away. Someone fears losing a relationship that has not ended. Someone imagines a health crisis that does not exist. The future becomes crowded with possibilities, and the nervous system struggles to distinguish between imagination and reality. This is why anxiety can feel so exhausting. The body responds to imagined threats as though they are already present. Muscles tighten. Sleep becomes difficult. Thoughts accelerate. The heart carries the weight of events that have not happened. In many cases, people suffer not from reality but from anticipation. They are fighting shadows cast by the future. They are carrying tomorrow's burdens today. The mind often believes that worrying is a form of preparation. It says, "If I think about every possibility, I will be ready." Yet constant worry rarely creates peace. Instead, it pulls attention away from the only place where life can actually be lived. The future never arrives in the form we imagine. When tomorrow comes, it arrives as another present moment. Yet many people spend today's present moment sacrificing it to a future that does not yet exist. The Buddha understood this tendency deeply. Long before modern psychology, he observed how the human mind becomes trapped between memory and anticipation. One of the most beautiful teachings attributed to him is remarkably simple. Do not pursue the past. Do not lose yourself in the future. These words are not a rejection of memory or planning. They are an invitation to freedom. The Buddha did not suggest forgetting the past, nor did he suggest ignoring the future. Instead, he pointed toward balance. Learn from yesterday, but do not live there. Prepare for tomorrow, but do not become lost there. Return again and again to the only place where life is actually happening. This teaching becomes especially powerful when we recognize how much of our suffering comes from mental time travel. The mind constantly leaves the present. It searches the past for certainty and the future for security. Yet neither can be found there. The past is gone. The future is unknown. The present moment, though often overlooked, is the only place where we can breathe, choose, love, heal, and live. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with stones. Each stone represents a memory you cannot release, or a future worry you cannot stop rehearsing. At first, the weight seems manageable. But as the years pass, more stones are added. Some represent old regrets. Others represent fears about the future. Eventually, the burden becomes so familiar that you forget what it feels like to walk without it. An old parable tells the story of a traveler named Elias, who journeyed through a vast valley between two mountain ranges. When he first began his journey, he carried a small bag containing food, water, and a few essential belongings. The bag was light. The road felt manageable. As he traveled, however, strange habits developed. Whenever something painful happened, he picked up a stone and placed it in his bag. A disagreement with a friend became one stone. A missed opportunity became another. A mistake he deeply regretted became another. Years passed. The bag grew heavier. Then he began collecting stones from the future as well. Whenever he worried about something that might happen, he added another stone. Fear of failure. Fear of loss. Fear of illness. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of growing older. Fear of disappointing others. Soon the bag contained far more stones than supplies. As the weight increased, Elias grew exhausted. Every step became difficult. His shoulders ached. His back hurt. He stopped noticing the beauty around him because all his attention focused on carrying the load. One afternoon, he encountered an elderly woman sitting beneath a tree beside the road. She watched him struggle up the path. "You look tired," she said gently. "I am," Elias replied. "The journey is too difficult." The woman glanced at the enormous bag hanging from his shoulders. "What are you carrying?" Elias opened the bag and showed her the stones. "These are my regrets," he explained. "And these are my worries." The woman picked up one of the stones. "What is this one?" "A mistake I made 10 years ago." "And this one?" "A conversation that might happen next month." The woman smiled softly. Then she asked a question that surprised him. "Why are you carrying stones from places you are no longer living?" Elias frowned. "I don't understand." The woman pointed behind him. "Yesterday is behind you." Then she pointed toward the distant horizon. "Tomorrow is ahead of you." Finally, she touched the ground beneath his feet. "But your life is happening here." Elias stood silently. For the first time, he looked carefully at the contents of the bag. Most of the weight came from places he was not actually living. Some stones belonged to years that were already gone. Others belonged to days that had not arrived. Very few belonged to the present moment. As he stood there, another realization slowly emerged. The valley itself was beautiful. Wildflowers covered the hillsides. Birds moved through the trees. A cool breeze crossed the path. Yet he had barely noticed any of it because his attention remained trapped somewhere else. The woman did not tell him what to do. She did not demand that he throw away every stone. She simply asked another question. If you carried one less stone today, which one would it be? Elias looked into the bag again. And for the first time in many years, he began wondering whether the heaviest burden in his life was not the road itself, but everything he insisted on carrying while walking it. Perhaps the journey had never been asking him to carry yesterday and tomorrow at the same time. Perhaps the road only required this step, this breath, this moment. And if that were true, what might become possible if he finally learned how to travel with lighter hands? There is a quiet habit of the human mind that many of us barely notice. Even when life is relatively calm, even when there is no immediate danger, even when we finally have a chance to sit down and rest, the mind rarely stays where the body is. It slips backward into old memories or races ahead into imagined futures. It replays conversations that ended years ago. It rehearses situations that may never happen. It wanders through regrets, worries, unfinished plans, and unanswered questions. And without realizing it, we begin carrying burdens from places we are not actually living. Much of the heaviness people feel does not come from what is happening right now. It comes from living everywhere except the present moment. Some people spend their days revisiting mistakes they wish they could undo. Others spend their nights imagining future problems they do not yet have. The mind becomes a traveler, moving endlessly between yesterday and tomorrow, rarely stopping long enough to experience today. Regret is one of the most common ways we live in yesterday. Almost everyone carries memories they wish had unfolded differently. Perhaps it was a relationship that ended badly. Perhaps it was an opportunity missed. Perhaps it was a decision that led to pain. Perhaps it was something said in anger or something left unsaid when it mattered most. Years may pass, yet the mind continues returning to the same scene, hoping somehow to rewrite what has already happened. The strange thing about regret is that it often disguises itself as responsibility. We tell ourselves that if we keep thinking about the past, we will finally understand it. We believe that if we replay the memory enough times, we will find the missing answer. Yet most of the time, we are not learning. We are simply reopening an old wound. The event has ended, but the suffering continues because the mind keeps returning to it. A woman once described her regret as carrying a photograph everywhere she went. Every day she looked at it. Every day she examined the same details. Every day she wished the image were different. After years of doing this, she realized something profound. The photograph never changed. The only thing changing was her ability to experience the life happening around her. While staring at yesterday, she was missing today. Anxiety works in a similar way, except its direction is different. Instead of living in yesterday, anxiety lives in tomorrow. It asks endless questions. What if something goes wrong? What if I fail? What if I lose what I love? What if things become worse? What if I am not prepared? The mind treats imagined possibilities as if they are already real. Many people assume anxiety is caused by the future itself, but the future has not arrived yet. Anxiety is often created by the stories the mind tells about the future. It is a form of mental time travel. The body remains here, but the mind rushes ahead, trying to predict every possible outcome. The difficulty is that uncertainty is woven into life itself. No one knows exactly what tomorrow will bring. No one can guarantee success, health, relationships, or security. The mind desperately wants certainty, yet life offers none. This tension creates enormous suffering. The Buddha understood this tendency long before modern psychology existed. One of his most beautiful teachings reminds us, do not pursue the past. Do not lose yourself in the future. The past no longer exists. The future has not yet arrived. Life unfolds only in this moment. These words may sound simple, but they contain tremendous wisdom. Notice that the Buddha did not say the past has no value. The past can teach us. It can help us grow. It can offer insight and understanding. What he warned against was pursuing it. There is a difference between learning from the past and living inside it. The same is true of the future. Planning can be wise. Preparation can be helpful. Responsibility requires us to think ahead at times. But there is a difference between planning for tomorrow and mentally living there. One brings clarity. The other often creates fear. Imagine holding a flashlight at night. If you point it directly where you are walking, the path becomes visible. If you shine it hundreds of miles away, the ground beneath your feet disappears into darkness. The mind often does this. It shines attention so far into the future that it loses contact with the present. The Buddha's invitation was not to ignore life. It was to return to it. A simple parable illustrates this beautifully. There was once a traveler named Daniel who carried a large sack across a long mountain road. Everyone who passed him noticed how exhausted he looked. His shoulders drooped. His back ached. His pace grew slower with every mile. One afternoon, another traveler stopped and asked, "What are you carrying?" Daniel opened the sack. Inside were stones. Hundreds of stones. The stranger looked confused. "Why are you carrying all of these?" Daniel pointed to several large stones. "These represent my mistakes." He pointed to another group. "These represent things people said to me years ago." Then he pointed to another section. "These are the opportunities I missed." The stranger nodded slowly. "And the rest?" Daniel sea-hilled. "Those are all the things that might go wrong in the future." The stranger stared at him in silence. Finally, he asked, "Do these stones help you walk?" "No." "Do they protect you?" "No." "Do they make your journey easier?" "No." "Then why keep carrying them?" Daniel had no answer. He had become so accustomed to the weight that he forgot it was optional. Many of us do the same thing. We carry yesterday's mistakes. We carry old disappointments. We carry imagined futures. We carry fears that have not happened. We carry conversations that ended years ago. We carry possibilities that may never arrive. And after carrying them long enough, we begin believing the burden is simply part of who we are. Modern neuroscience helps explain why this happens. Researchers have discovered that the brain naturally engages in what is sometimes called mental time travel. When the mind is not focused on an immediate task, it often drifts toward memories and predictions. This ability helped our ancestors survive. Remembering danger helped them avoid it. Anticipating threats helped them prepare. The problem is that the brain often continues this process long after it becomes useful. Instead of learning from a painful experience once, the mind replays it hundreds of times. Instead of preparing for a challenge, the mind rehearses disasters endlessly. The brain becomes trapped in loops, and every loop consumes emotional energy. This is why many people feel exhausted even when they have not done much physically. Mental time travel is surprisingly expensive. It drains attention. It activates stress responses. It prevents rest. It keeps the nervous system alert, even when there is no immediate threat. The present moment offers a different possibility. Not because it is always pleasant, not because it solves every problem, but because it is real. The present moment is the only place where life can actually be lived. Think about that for a moment. You cannot breathe yesterday's breath. You cannot take tomorrow's step. You cannot experience tomorrow's sunrise today. Life only happens now. Yet the mind often spends very little time here. A person may sit beside someone they love while thinking about work. They may eat dinner while worrying about next month. They may walk beneath a beautiful sky while replaying an argument from years ago. The body lives in the present. The mind lives elsewhere. And so the richness of life passes unnoticed. Mindfulness is not about forcing the mind to stop thinking. It is about gently returning to this breath, returning to this sound, returning to this sensation, returning to this moment, again and again. The beauty of mindfulness is its simplicity. Nothing special is required. No perfect conditions. No extraordinary experience. Only a willingness to notice where the mind has gone and kindly guide it home. You might notice a memory. That is okay. You might notice a worry. That is okay. You might notice anxiety. That is okay. The goal is not to eliminate these experiences. The goal is to stop building a house inside them. When we return to the present moment, something remarkable begins to happen. Problems do not disappear, but they become smaller than the stories surrounding them. A challenge that seemed overwhelming suddenly becomes manageable when experienced one moment at a time. A difficult emotion becomes easier to hold when we stop resisting it. A heavy day becomes lighter when we stop adding yesterday and tomorrow to it. Presence does not remove life's difficulties. Presence changes our relationship with them. The next time you notice your mind traveling, pause gently. Feel the breath entering the body. Feel the breath leaving. Notice the weight of your body against the bed or chair. Notice the sounds around you. Notice the simple fact that right now, in this exact moment, you are here. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Here. The present moment may not contain every answer, but it contains something equally valuable. Reality. And reality is often far kinder than the fearful stories created by the mind. The more we practice returning, the more familiar this place becomes. Eventually, we begin realizing that peace is not found in solving every problem from the past or controlling every possibility in the future. Peace begins whenever we stop abandoning the present. Again and again. Breath by breath. Moment by moment. Returning not because life is perfect, but because this moment is the only place where life can actually be touched, experienced, and lived. If this reflection spoke to your heart, share in the comments. one thing you are learning to let go of. And if you'd like more peaceful Buddhist wisdom before sleep, consider subscribing and sharing this video with someone who may need it tonight. Some of the harshest words a person will ever hear are never spoken by another human being. They arise quietly inside the mind. They appear after mistakes, failures, disappointments, and difficult moments. They arrive when nobody else is around. They whisper that we should have known better. They remind us of our weaknesses. They replay our failures. They compare us to impossible standards. And over time, these internal judgments become so familiar that many people stop questioning them altogether. It is one of life's strange contradictions that human beings often know how to offer compassion to others while withholding it from themselves. A friend makes a mistake, and we respond with understanding. A loved one struggles, and we encourage them. A child falls down, and we help them stand again. Yet when we stumble, the voice inside often becomes a ruthless critic. Many people live with an inner dialogue they would never use toward another person. Imagine speaking to a dear friend exactly the way some people speak to themselves. Imagine telling a grieving friend that they are weak for feeling pain. Imagine telling someone who is exhausted that they should simply try harder. Imagine reminding a person of every mistake they have ever made while ignoring every act of courage, kindness, or growth. Most of us would never behave that way toward another human being. Yet countless people do it to themselves every single day. This inner critic rarely rests. It follows people through their careers, relationships, parenting, aging, and personal struggles. It appears after an argument. It appears after a setback. It appears when life feels uncertain. It often disguises itself as motivation, convincing us that self-judgment is necessary for improvement. But many people eventually discover that constant self-criticism does not create growth. More often, it creates exhaustion. A person can spend years carrying emotional burdens made heavier, not by the original difficulty, but by the way they talk to themselves afterward. A mistake happens once. Self-condemnation repeats it hundreds of times. A disappointment occurs in a moment. Shame can stretch it across decades. This is especially true during difficult periods of life. When people are struggling, they often become both the wounded person and the harsh judge. They experience pain, then criticize themselves for feeling pain. They feel anxious, then criticize themselves for being anxious. They feel tired, then criticize themselves for being tired. Instead of offering themselves support during a difficult season, they become another source of pressure. Modern psychology has spent decades studying this pattern, and the findings are remarkably consistent. Research on self-compassion shows that people who treat themselves with kindness during difficult moments are often more resilient, not less. They recover from setbacks more effectively. They experience lower levels of anxiety and depression. They demonstrate greater emotional flexibility. They are often more motivated to grow because they are no longer wasting enormous energy fighting themselves. At first, this seems counterintuitive. Many people believe that self-compassion will make them lazy or complacent. They worry that being kind to themselves means lowering standards. Yet the evidence points in the opposite direction. Harsh self-judgment tends to activate threat responses within the nervous system. The body becomes defensive. Stress hormones increase. Fear takes over. Growth becomes more difficult, because the mind is focused on survival rather than learning. Compassion creates a different environment. When people feel safe, they become more capable of honest reflection. They can acknowledge mistakes without being crushed by them. They can take responsibility without drowning in shame. They can learn because they are no longer using all their energy to protect themselves from their own inner attacks. In many ways, self-compassion functions like emotional first aid. If someone falls and scrapes their knee, we do not punish them before treating the wound. We care for the injury first. Yet emotionally, people often do the opposite. They encounter pain and immediately begin judging themselves for having it. Long before modern psychology confirmed these insights, Buddhist wisdom pointed toward a similar understanding. Compassion is often described as one of the most transformative qualities a human being can cultivate. Many people assume compassion is something directed outward toward others. Certainly it includes others. But true compassion cannot exclude ourselves. The Buddha taught that suffering is part of the human experience. This teaching is often misunderstood. Some hear it and think it is pessimistic. In reality, it is deeply compassionate. It reminds us that struggle is not evidence of personal failure. Difficulty does not mean something is wrong with you. Pain is not proof that you are broken. To be human is to encounter loss, uncertainty, disappointment, aging, illness, mistakes, and change. When we understand this, something softens. We stop expecting ourselves to be immune from the very experiences that touch every human life. Self-compassion begins with this recognition. You are human. Human beings struggle. Human beings make mistakes. Human beings become tired. Human beings feel fear. Human beings experience grief. Human beings sometimes lose their way. These realities do not make anyone unworthy of kindness. In Buddhist traditions, compassion is not pity. It is the willingness to meet suffering with understanding rather than hostility. When directed inward, it means learning to sit beside our own pain without attacking ourselves for having it. Imagine a person sitting quietly beside a friend who is grieving. They do not lecture. They do not criticize. They do not demand immediate recovery. They simply remain present with warmth and care. Now imagine offering that same presence to yourself. For many people, that is surprisingly difficult. Years of conditioning may have taught them that self-worth must be earned. They may believe they deserve kindness only after achieving enough, succeeding enough, or becoming perfect enough. Yet perfection remains forever out of reach. The result is a life spent postponing self-acceptance. A powerful example of this can be seen in the story of Michael, a military veteran who spent years carrying invisible wounds long after his service had ended. Michael was respected by those around him. Friends described him as dependable. Neighbors trusted him. Younger veterans often sought his advice because of his calm presence and generosity. What nobody knew was how fiercely he judged himself. Michael could forgive almost anyone except himself. He carried regrets from decisions made during chaotic and painful circumstances. Some involved choices he wished he could change. Others involved outcomes that had never truly been within his control. Yet his mind treated all of them as personal failures. Years passed. He built a life. He worked hard. He helped others. Still, the old judgments remained. Whenever something went wrong, the inner critic returned. Whenever he felt sadness, it returned. Whenever he made even a small mistake, it returned. One afternoon, Michael attended a support group led by a therapist named Dr. Elena Brooks. During a conversation, she asked him a simple question. If another veteran came to you carrying the same story, what would you say to him? Michael answered immediately. I'd tell him he did the best he could with what he knew at the time. Dr. Brooks nodded. And if he still blamed himself 20 years later, I'd tell him he has suffered enough. She paused. Then she asked quietly, why does that wisdom apply to him but not to you? The room became silent. Michael stared at the floor. For a long time, he said nothing. Eventually, he whispered, I don't know. That moment stayed with him. Not because it solved everything instantly. Not because decades of self-judgment disappeared overnight. But because it revealed something he had never fully seen before. He had spent years offering compassion to everyone except the person who needed it most. And for the first time, he began wondering what might happen if the same kindness he gave so freely to others could somehow be turned inward. He did not yet know how to do it. He was not even sure it was possible. But a question had begun opening inside him, and that question would quietly accompany him into the next stage of his journey. Some of the harshest words a person will ever hear are never spoken by another human being. They arise quietly inside the mind. They appear after mistakes, failures, disappointments, and difficult moments. They arrive when nobody else is around. They whisper that we should have known better. They remind us of our weaknesses. They replay our failures. They compare us to impossible standards. And over time, these internal judgments become so familiar that many people stop questioning them altogether. It is one of life's strange contradictions that human beings often know how to offer compassion to others while withholding it from themselves. A friend makes a mistake, and we respond with understanding. A loved one struggles, and we encourage them. A child falls down, and we help them stand again. Yet when we stumble, the voice inside often becomes a ruthless critic. Many people live with an inner dialogue they would never use toward another person. Imagine speaking to a dear friend exactly the way some people speak to themselves. Imagine telling a grieving friend that they are weak for feeling pain. Imagine telling someone who is exhausted that they should simply try harder. Imagine reminding a person of every mistake they have ever made while ignoring every act of courage, kindness, or growth. Most of us would never behave that way toward another human being. Yet countless people do it to themselves every single day. This inner critic rarely rests. It follows people through their careers, relationships, parenting, aging, and personal struggles. It appears after an argument. It appears after a setback. It appears when life feels uncertain. It often disguises itself as motivation, convincing us that self-judgment is necessary for improvement. But many people eventually discover that constant self-criticism does not create growth. More often, it creates exhaustion. A person can spend years carrying emotional burdens made heavier, not by the original difficulty, but by the way they talk to themselves afterward. A mistake happens once. Self-condemnation repeats it hundreds of times. A disappointment occurs in a moment. Shame can stretch it across decades. This is especially true during difficult periods of life. When people are struggling, they often become both the wounded person and the harsh judge. They experience pain, then criticize themselves for feeling pain. They feel anxious, then criticize themselves for being anxious. They feel tired, then criticize themselves for being tired. Instead of offering themselves support during a difficult season, they become another source of pressure. Modern psychology has spent decades studying this pattern, and the findings are remarkably consistent. Research on self-compassion shows that people who treat themselves with kindness during difficult moments are often more resilient, not less. They recover from setbacks more effectively. They experience lower levels of anxiety and depression. They demonstrate greater emotional flexibility. They are often more motivated to grow because they are no longer wasting enormous energy fighting themselves. At first, this seems counterintuitive. Many people believe that self-compassion will make them lazy or complacent. They worry that being kind to themselves means lowering standards. Yet the evidence points in the opposite direction. Harsh self-judgment tends to activate threat responses within the nervous system. The body becomes defensive. Stress hormones increase. Fear takes over. Growth becomes more difficult because the mind is focused on survival rather than learning. Compassion creates a different environment. When people feel safe, they become more capable of honest reflection. They can acknowledge mistakes without being crushed by them. They can take responsibility without drowning in shame. They can learn because they are no longer using all their energy to protect themselves from their own inner attacks. In many ways, self-compassion functions like emotional first aid. If someone falls and scrapes their knee, we do not punish them before treating the wound. We care for the injury first. Yet emotionally, people often do the opposite. They encounter pain and immediately begin judging themselves for having it. Long before modern psychology confirmed these insights, Buddhist wisdom pointed toward a similar understanding. Compassion is often described as one of the most transformative qualities a human being can cultivate. Many people assume compassion is something directed outward toward others. Certainly it includes others. But true compassion cannot exclude ourselves. The Buddha taught that suffering is part of the human experience. This teaching is often misunderstood. Some hear it and think it is pessimistic. In reality, it is deeply compassionate. It reminds us that struggle is not evidence of personal failure. Difficulty does not mean something is wrong with you. Pain is not proof that you are broken. To be human is to encounter loss, uncertainty, disappointment, aging, illness, mistakes, and change. When we understand this, something softens. We stop expecting ourselves to be immune from the very experiences that touch every human life. Self-compassion begins with this recognition. You are human. Human beings struggle. Human beings make mistakes. Human beings become tired. Human beings feel fear. Human beings experience grief. Human beings sometimes lose their way. These realities do not make anyone unworthy of kindness. In Buddhist traditions, compassion is not pity. It is the willingness to meet suffering with understanding rather than hostility. When directed inward, it means learning to sit beside our own pain without attacking ourselves for having it. Imagine a person sitting quietly beside a friend who is grieving. They do not lecture. They do not criticize. They do not demand immediate recovery. They simply remain present with warmth and care. Now imagine offering that same presence to yourself. For many people, that is surprisingly difficult. Years of conditioning may have taught them that self-worth must be earned. They may believe they deserve kindness only after achieving enough, succeeding enough, or becoming perfect enough. Yet perfection remains forever out of reach. The result is a life spent postponing self-acceptance. A powerful example of this can be seen in the story of Michael, a military veteran who spent years carrying invisible wounds long after his service had ended. Michael was respected by those around him. Friends described him as dependable. Neighbors trusted him. Younger veterans often sought his advice because of his calm presence and generosity. What nobody knew was how fiercely he judged himself. Michael could forgive almost anyone except himself. He carried regrets from decisions made during chaotic and painful circumstances. Some involved choices he wished he could change. Others involved outcomes that had never truly been within his control. Yet his mind treated all of them as personal failures. Years passed. He built a life. He worked hard. He helped others. Still, the old judgments remained. Whenever something went wrong, the inner critic returned. Whenever he felt sadness, it returned. Whenever he made even a small mistake, it returned. One afternoon, Michael attended a support group led by a therapist named Dr. Elena Brooks. During a conversation, she asked him a simple question. If another veteran came to you carrying the same story, what would you say to him? Michael answered immediately. I'd tell him he did the best he could with what he knew at the time. Dr. Brooks nodded. And if he still blamed himself 20 years later, I'd tell him he has suffered enough. She paused. Then she asked quietly, why does that wisdom apply to him but not to you? The room became silent. Michael stared at the floor. For a long time, he said nothing. Eventually, he whispered, I don't know. That moment stayed with him. Not because it solved everything instantly. Not because decades of self-judgment disappeared overnight. But because it revealed something he had never fully seen before. He had spent years offering compassion to everyone except the person who needed it most. And for the first time, he began wondering what might happen if the same kindness he gave so freely to others could somehow be turned inward. He did not yet know how to do it. He was not even sure it was possible. But a question had begun opening inside him, and that question would quietly accompany him into the next stage of his journey. There are seasons in life when gratitude feels almost impossible. When people are overwhelmed by loss, uncertainty, loneliness, exhaustion, or disappointment, being grateful may seem disconnected from reality. In difficult moments, the mind naturally focuses on what is wrong. It notices what is missing. It notices what has been lost. It notices what still hurts. This is not because human beings are weak. It is because the brain has been shaped by thousands of years of evolution to pay close attention to problems. Modern neuroscience reveals something fascinating about the human mind. Psychologists sometimes call it the negativity bias. The brain is naturally more sensitive to threats, disappointments, and negative experiences than to positive ones. Long ago, this helped our ancestors survive. A person who noticed danger quickly was more likely to stay alive. Forgetting a beautiful sunset had few consequences. Forgetting the location of a predator could be fatal. The brain carried this tendency forward through generations. As a result, many people can receive 10 compliments and 1 criticism, yet remember only the criticism. They can experience moments of joy throughout the day, but spend the evening replaying one painful interaction. They can be surrounded by things that are functioning well, while focusing entirely on the one thing that is not. When life becomes difficult, this tendency often intensifies. Pain narrows our attention. Grief narrows our attention. Fear narrows our attention. Emotional suffering can function almost like a tunnel, limiting what we see. Suddenly, the mind becomes convinced that hardship is the entire story. Yet suffering, while real, is rarely the whole story. A person facing illness may still be surrounded by people who care deeply about them. Someone grieving a loss may still possess beautiful memories that love made possible. A person struggling financially may still experience kindness, friendship, sunlight, music, or moments of connection. Pain is real. Difficulty is real. Loss is real. But they are not always the only reality present. This does not mean we should ignore suffering. Gratitude is not denial. It is not pretending everything is wonderful when it clearly is not. Genuine gratitude does not ask us to close our eyes to pain. Instead, it invites us to widen our vision enough to see that pain is not the only thing that exists. Many people discover this lesson through experiences they never expected. One such person was a woman named Sarah Whitman, a high school art teacher living in a small coastal town in Oregon. For most of her life, Sarah had been optimistic and energetic. She loved her students. She loved painting. She loved long walks beside the ocean. Then, within a period of 18 months, several difficult events occurred. Her father passed away after a long illness. A relationship she believed would last forever came to an unexpected end. Shortly afterward, budget cuts led to significant uncertainty at her school. For the first time in her life, Sarah found herself waking each morning with a sense of heaviness she could not easily explain. The things that once brought joy seemed distant. Her thoughts became darker. The future felt uncertain. Even simple tasks required effort. One evening, while speaking with her friend Rebecca over coffee, Sarah admitted something she had never said aloud. "I don't recognize myself anymore." Rebecca listened quietly. Then she asked, "What do you mean?" Sarah stared into her cup. "It feels like all I can see are the things that are wrong." Rebecca nodded. She did not try to fix the problem. She did not offer motivational advice. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small notebook. "I started doing something a few years ago during a difficult period," she said. "What is it? Every night I write down 3 things that were still good today." Sarah laughed softly. "That sounds too simple." "Maybe," Rebecca replied. "But simple doesn't always mean ineffective." Sarah accepted the notebook mostly to be polite. She did not expect much. That evening, she sat at her kitchen table and stared at the blank page. At first, she struggled. Everything felt heavy. Everything felt complicated. Finally, she wrote 3 things. The rain sounded beautiful against the window. A student had smiled when she complimented his painting. The soup she made for dinner tasted good. That was all. Nothing extraordinary. Nothing life-changing. The next evening, she repeated the exercise. Then the next. And the next. Weeks passed. The problems did not disappear. Her grief remained. Her uncertainty remained. Her challenges remained. Yet something subtle began changing. She started noticing things she previously overlooked. The kindness of a stranger holding a door. The warmth of sunlight on a cold morning. A message from a friend. The comfort of a familiar song. A moment of laughter. The smell of coffee. A successful lesson at school. None of these erased her pain. But together they reminded her that pain was not the whole story. Months later, Sarah described the experience in a way that stayed with Rebecca forever. She said, "The notebook didn't change my circumstances. It changed what I was able to see. That is one of gratitude's quiet gifts. It expands vision, not by eliminating darkness, but by helping us notice light that was already present." This understanding aligns deeply with Buddhist wisdom. Gratitude is not merely a pleasant emotion. It is a way of seeing. It is a form of awareness. The Buddha often encouraged people to recognize conditions that support life and well-being. When we pay attention carefully, we begin realizing how much of life arrives through causes and conditions we did not create alone. The food we eat reaches us through countless hands. The knowledge we possess comes from teachers, authors, mentors, and experiences. The roof above us was built by others. The roads we travel were created by others. Even the breath we take connects us to trees, oceans, and ecosystems beyond our awareness. Life is far more interconnected than we often realize. Gratitude emerges naturally when we begin noticing this interconnectedness. It is not forced positivity. It is recognition. Recognition that even during difficult seasons, support still exists. Recognition that goodness still exists. Recognition that not everything has abandoned us. This becomes especially important when life feels heavy. During painful periods, people often develop a habit of scanning constantly for what is missing. The mind creates long lists. What have I lost? What should be different? What do I still need? Why is this happening? These questions are understandable. But gratitude introduces another set of questions. What remains? Who has helped me? What still supports me? What small goodness exists today? What has not been lost? These questions do not replace the difficult ones. They simply balance them. A life viewed only through suffering becomes distorted. A life viewed only through gratitude becomes distorted as well. Wisdom allows room for both. Pain and appreciation. Grief and love. Difficulty and beauty. The human heart is large enough to contain them together. Perhaps that is why gratitude can feel so healing during hard times. It gently reminds us that life is more complex than the stories fear tells. The mind says everything is falling apart. Gratitude notices what is still standing. The mind says nothing good remains. Gratitude notices what continues quietly supporting us. As you reflect on your own life, you may discover that even now, in this very moment, there are things holding you that you have not fully noticed. Perhaps there are people who care about you more than you realize. Perhaps there are strengths within you that have carried you through difficulties before. Perhaps there are simple blessings that have become so familiar they fade into the background. A roof overhead, air entering the lungs, a bed waiting at the end of the day. The ability to hear these words, a memory that still brings warmth, a person whose kindness remains in your heart, a lesson learned through hardship, a sunrise you have not yet seen. The remarkable thing is that many of these supports remain present even when suffering makes them difficult to see. And perhaps, before moving further, it is worth pausing beside that possibility. If pain has narrowed your vision, what might still be present just beyond the edge of what you are currently noticing? What quiet gifts, unseen supports, or forgotten blessings might still be carrying part of the weight with you, waiting patiently to be recognized? What Sarah discovered through her small notebook of blessings is something modern science has been exploring for years. Gratitude is not simply a pleasant emotion. It appears to influence the brain in measurable ways. Researchers studying positive psychology and neuroscience have found that regularly practicing gratitude can strengthen neural pathways associated with emotional regulation, resilience, and well-being. When people intentionally notice what is supportive, meaningful, or good in their lives, the brain begins developing a different pattern of attention. It does not stop recognizing problems. Rather, it becomes less trapped by them. Many people assume that the mind is fixed, but the brain is constantly changing. Every repeated thought strengthens certain pathways. When someone spends years rehearsing worries, regrets, or fears, those mental routes become familiar. The brain learns where to travel. This is one reason anxious thoughts can feel automatic. Yet the opposite is also true. When a person repeatedly practices appreciation, awareness of goodness, and recognition of support, new pathways gradually become stronger. Scientists sometimes describe this process as neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to adapt through experience. Gratitude becomes more than a feeling. It becomes training. Every time we pause to recognize something meaningful, however small, we are teaching the mind where else it can look. This matters, especially during difficult seasons. When life feels heavy, the brain naturally scans for danger. It asks, what is wrong? What might go wrong? What have I lost? Gratitude gently introduces another question. What is still here? That question may seem simple, yet it can quietly change an entire evening. Perhaps this is why many contemplative traditions encourage gratitude before sleep. The final thoughts we hold before resting often influence the emotional tone we carry into the night. A mind that goes to bed rehearsing every fear tends to remain activated. A mind that remembers even a few moments of goodness often softens. This does not require grand achievements. It does not require perfect circumstances. It does not require pretending everything is fine. It requires only willingness. A willingness to notice. A willingness to remember. A willingness to let the heart see more than pain. If you would like, you might try a simple practice before sleep. There is no need for candles, special equipment, or lengthy meditation. Simply sit or lie comfortably and allow your breathing to settle naturally. Then ask yourself 3 gentle questions. What is one thing that supported me today? Perhaps it was a person. Perhaps it was your own perseverance. Perhaps it was something as simple as a warm meal or a moment of quiet. Next, ask, What is one thing I experienced today that brought even a small amount of goodness? It may have been laughter, a kind message, a beautiful sky, a favorite song, a peaceful moment between tasks. Then ask, what is one thing I appreciate about myself right now? For many people, this third question is the hardest. The mind often finds it easier to appreciate others than itself. Yet perhaps you can acknowledge something small. Maybe you kept going despite difficulty. Maybe you showed kindness. Maybe you survived a hard day. Maybe you are here now, still trying, still learning, still healing. You do not need dramatic answers. Simple truths are enough. The purpose of this practice is not to force gratitude. Forced gratitude becomes another burden. The purpose is simply to widen awareness, to remind the heart that suffering is not the entire landscape. Some people resist gratitude because they worry it minimizes their pain. They fear that acknowledging blessings somehow invalidates their struggles. This misunderstanding is important to address. Gratitude is not denial. Gratitude is not pretending grief does not exist. Gratitude is not smiling through heartbreak. Gratitude is not spiritual bypassing. Gratitude is not a command to be positive. A person can grieve deeply and still feel grateful for love. A person can struggle with illness and still appreciate moments of connection. A person can face uncertainty and still recognize support. The human heart is capable of holding multiple truths at once. One truth may be, this is difficult. Another truth may be, something beautiful still remains. Both can coexist. In fact, some of the deepest gratitude often emerges from people who have suffered greatly. They understand how fragile life can be. They understand that nothing is guaranteed. They know what it means to lose something precious. Because of this, they often notice things others overlook. A conversation, a sunrise, a hand held during a difficult moment, a quiet evening, a second chance, a breath. The Buddha's teachings on impermanence point toward this understanding. Everything changes. Everything passes. Nothing can be permanently possessed. At first, this truth can feel unsettling. Yet eventually, it can awaken appreciation. When we realize something will not last forever, we begin seeing it more clearly. We stop postponing gratitude. We stop waiting for perfection. We stop demanding that life become different before we allow ourselves to appreciate what is here. A flower becomes more precious because it blooms briefly. A friendship becomes more meaningful because time is limited. A peaceful moment becomes more valuable because it cannot be held forever. Impermanence does not diminish beauty. It deepens it. Perhaps this is one reason gratitude and wisdom are such close companions. Wisdom sees that life changes. Gratitude responds by paying attention while it is here. As this reflection slowly draws toward its close, consider for a moment everything your mind has survived. Consider the difficult chapters that once seemed impossible. Consider the disappointments, losses, fears, and uncertainties that you somehow carried through. Not perfectly, not gracefully every day, but you carried them nonetheless. There may have been times when you believed you would never feel hope again. Times when the future looked empty. Times when exhaustion seemed endless. And yet here you are, still breathing, still growing, still capable of healing, still capable of love, still capable of noticing goodness. Sometimes the most important discovery is not that suffering disappears. Sometimes the most important discovery is realizing that life has not abandoned you. The mind may tell stories of isolation. It may insist you are alone. It may focus entirely on what has been lost. Yet beneath those stories, there are often quiet signs of support. People who care, strengths you developed through hardship, lessons learned, moments of beauty, unexpected kindness, the steady rhythm of breath, the simple miracle of another day. Life may not always give us what we want. Life may not always move according to our plans. Life may bring seasons we never would have chosen. Yet even in difficult chapters, life continues offering small invitations toward healing. A conversation, a sunrise, a moment of stillness, a chance to begin again. And perhaps, as you rest here now, you do not need to solve every problem before sleep arrives. You do not need to carry every unanswered question into the night. You do not need to deny your struggles, nor do you need to be defined by them. You can simply recognize that alongside whatever pain exists, there may also be quiet goodness. Alongside uncertainty, there may still be support. Alongside heaviness, there may still be moments of grace. Alongside fear, there may still be reasons for hope. And perhaps the heart becomes lighter not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because it finally sees the whole picture. Not only the darkness, but also the light that never completely disappeared. There is a quiet habit that follows many people into the night. The body lies down, the room becomes still, the responsibilities of the day appear to be finished, yet the mind continues working as if it has been assigned an impossible task. It reviews conversations that have already ended. It rehearses future scenarios that have not happened. It searches for perfect solutions to imperfect situations. It tries to calculate every possible outcome, eliminate every uncertainty, and prepare for every challenge that might appear tomorrow. Many people believe they cannot rest because their lives contain problems. Yet often the deeper reason is that the mind has convinced itself that every problem must be solved before rest is allowed. This creates a kind of invisible exhaustion. The body becomes tired from lack of sleep, but the heart becomes tired from carrying responsibilities that were never meant to be carried all at once. Perhaps you know this feeling. Perhaps you have experienced nights when your head touched the pillow, yet your thoughts immediately began running. One worry led to another. One unanswered question opened the door to 10 more. A conversation from earlier in the day replayed repeatedly. A decision from months ago suddenly demanded re-examination. A future event that may never happen started feeling dangerously real. The mind became a courtroom, a planning committee, a crisis center, and a forecasting department all at the same time. Hours passed, but no real answers appeared. Only more thinking, only more effort, only more tension. What makes this experience so difficult is that the mind genuinely believes it is helping. It believes that enough thinking will eventually produce certainty. It assumes that if it can anticipate every possibility, it will somehow protect us from pain. This tendency is deeply human. Modern psychology suggests that the brain evolved to scan constantly for threats. Long ago, this ability helped our ancestors survive. The mind learned to ask, what could go wrong? Because noticing danger increased the chances of staying alive. Yet the modern world presents a challenge that our ancient brains were never fully designed to handle. Instead of occasional physical threats, we face endless psychological uncertainties. Careers can change. Relationships can change. Economies can change. Health can change. The brain responds by trying to predict and control everything. It searches constantly for certainty in a world where certainty rarely exists. The problem is not that the brain asks questions. The problem is that it never knows when to stop asking them. One answer quickly produces another concern. One solved problem reveals a new uncertainty. One completed task gives birth to 3 additional responsibilities. The mind begins behaving as though peace is a reward that will be granted only after every possible future problem has been resolved. Yet that moment never arrives. There is always another possibility to consider, another risk to calculate, another outcome to prepare for. This is why some people remain restless, even when life is going relatively well. The mind has become addicted to solving. It no longer knows how to simply be. A timeless Zen story offers a beautiful illustration of this tendency. A traveler was floating quietly along a river in a small wooden boat. The water was calm, and for a brief time, he enjoyed the peaceful silence surrounding him. As he drifted downstream, he noticed another boat approaching from a distance. At first, he assumed the other person would change direction. Yet the boat continued moving directly toward him. His irritation began to rise. He called out across the water, "Be careful. You're heading straight toward me." There was no reply. The boat continued drifting closer. His frustration grew stronger. "Can you hear me? Turn your boat." Still, there was no response. By the time the 2 boats finally collided, anger had completely taken over. The traveler stood up, prepared to confront the careless stranger responsible for the collision. But when he looked inside the approaching boat, he discovered something unexpected. The boat was empty. In that instant, his anger disappeared. The collision had still happened. The inconvenience remained exactly the same. Nothing about the external event had changed. Yet something fundamental inside him shifted. The moment he realized there was no one to blame, his emotional struggle vanished. The story points toward a subtle truth about suffering. Often, it is not reality itself that creates the greatest pain. It is the stories we build around reality. The mind creates explanations, assumptions, expectations, and resistance. We collide not only with circumstances, but with our interpretations of those circumstances. The empty boat appears everywhere in life. It appears when plans change unexpectedly. It appears when someone misunderstands us. It appears when traffic delays our journey. It appears when life refuses to follow our preferred schedule. Again and again, the mind reacts as though reality has personally violated its expectations. The Buddha understood this tendency deeply. One of the qualities he emphasized was equanimity, sometimes described as a balanced mind or an unshakable heart. Equanimity does not mean becoming indifferent. It does not mean suppressing emotions. It does not mean pretending difficult experiences are pleasant. Rather, it means developing the capacity to remain steady while life continues changing around us. Imagine a mountain standing beneath shifting weather. Clouds gather and disappear. Rain arrives and passes. Winds become strong and then gentle again. Snow falls and melts. Yet the mountain remains. Equanimity is not the absence of weather. It is the stability that exists beneath it. Many people mistakenly believe peace comes from controlling life. The Buddha suggested something very different. Peace comes from changing our relationship with life. Control is always limited. No matter how intelligent, prepared, disciplined, or careful we become, uncertainty remains. We cannot control every outcome. We cannot control every opinion others hold about us. We cannot control every change, every loss, every surprise, every challenge, or every turning point that appears throughout our lives. Much of human suffering comes from refusing to accept this reality. We exhaust ourselves trying to hold back tides that were always going to move. Think about the amount of energy spent worrying about situations that never actually happened. Think about the nights sacrificed to fears that eventually dissolved on their own. Think about the conversations rehearsed repeatedly that unfolded entirely differently than expected. The mind often acts as though tomorrow's problems must be solved tonight. Yet tomorrow has not even arrived. The future exists mostly as imagination. The body remains here, in this room, in this moment, while the mind travels endlessly through possibilities. One of the great paradoxes of life is that the more desperately we chase certainty, the more anxious we often become. Every answer generates another question. Every guarantee reveals another area of uncertainty. Eventually, we discover that certainty is not what creates peace. Trust creates peace. Not trust that life will always unfold according to our preferences, but trust that we can meet life as it unfolds. This kind of trust is very different from wishful thinking. It is grounded in experience. Look back at your own life for a moment. Consider the challenges you once believed you could never survive. Consider the difficult chapters that seemed impossible while you were living through them. The heartbreaks, the disappointments, the unexpected changes, the fears, the losses. At the time, many of those experiences may have felt overwhelming. Yet somehow you moved through them. Not perfectly, not without pain, not without uncertainty, but you moved through them nonetheless. The mind often forgets this. Fear speaks as though every future challenge will be faced by a powerless version of you. Yet tomorrow will be met by the same person who has survived countless tomorrows before. The same person who has adapted, learned, healed, grown, and continued despite difficulties. There is wisdom hidden within your own history, wisdom that the anxious mind frequently overlooks. Perhaps this is where equanimity begins. Not in controlling the future, but in trusting your capacity to meet it. Not in eliminating uncertainty, but in recognizing that uncertainty has always been part of life. Not in solving every problem before sleep, but in allowing some questions to remain unanswered for now. And as you sit quietly with that possibility, another question naturally begins to emerge. If peace does not require perfect certainty, if rest does not require every problem to be solved, and if the heart is stronger than fear often claims, then what would happen if, even for a little while, you stopped demanding immediate answers from life and allowed yourself to simply be present with what is here? If you have followed this reflection all the way to this moment, perhaps there is nothing more important to understand. Perhaps what is needed now is not another idea, another explanation, or another attempt to solve what remains unsolved. Perhaps what is needed is simply a chance to rest. Human beings spend so much of their lives carrying tension without realizing it. The shoulders tighten. The jaw clenches. The forehead contracts. The stomach holds anxiety. The chest carries worry. The mind keeps working long after the day has ended. Many people assume they are tired because they have done too much. Sometimes they are tired because they have carried too much. There is a difference. Work can exhaust the body. Unfinished fear exhausts the heart. Before sleep arrives, it can be helpful to remember that the body often knows how to relax long before the mind gives permission. For a few moments, allow your attention to settle gently into your physical experience. There is nothing to achieve, nothing to force. Simply notice the sensation of breathing. Feel the natural rise and fall of your chest. Notice the weight of your body being supported. You do not need to hold yourself up anymore. The chair supports you. The bed supports you. The floor supports you. Gravity is already doing its work. The earth has been carrying you your entire life. Take a slow breath in. Not because you must. Not because it is a technique. Simply because you are alive. Then allow the breath to leave naturally. Notice how the body already understands this rhythm without effort. Breathing happens. The heart beats. Life continues. You do not manage these things consciously. For a moment, let that realization settle in. There is already so much that does not require your control. Allow your attention to move gently through the body. Notice the forehead. If there is tension there, allow it to soften. Notice the eyes. They have spent all day looking outward. Perhaps they can rest now. Notice the jaw. Many people carry hidden effort there. See if it can relax. Notice the neck and shoulders. Imagine setting down a heavy backpack you have been carrying for miles. Notice the chest. Notice the stomach. Notice the hands. Notice the legs. Move through the body slowly, not trying to change anything, simply offering permission for tension to loosen where it is ready to loosen. Sometimes relaxation does not happen because we force it. Sometimes it happens because we stop resisting it. And as the body begins to soften, another realization often appears. Most of the problems the mind is trying to solve right now will not be solved tonight. This is not bad news. It is simply true. At 2 o'clock in the morning, the mind often pretends to be wise. Yet anyone who has spent time awake in the middle of the night knows that nighttime thinking rarely produces the clarity it promises. Concerns become larger. Uncertainties become darker. Possibilities become threats. The tired brain loses perspective. What seems overwhelming at 2 in the morning often appears manageable in daylight. How many times have you worried intensely about something during the night, only to discover the next day that the situation was not as frightening as it seemed? How many times has exhaustion disguised itself as wisdom? How many times has fear spoken with the voice of certainty? The mind says, keep thinking, keep analyzing, keep worrying. If you stop now, something important will be missed. Yet what if the opposite is true? What if rest is not avoiding the problem? What if rest is preparing yourself to meet the problem more wisely tomorrow? Imagine a traveler carrying a lantern through a dark forest. As the lantern begins to run out of oil, the traveler does not help himself by walking faster. He helps himself by protecting the flame. Rest works the same way. The mind is not strengthened through endless strain. It is strengthened through renewal. This is why sleep is not laziness. Stillness is not laziness. Pausing is not laziness. Rest is one of the most intelligent things a human being can do. The Buddha often pointed people toward a peace that was deeper than circumstances. Not a peace created by perfect conditions, but a peace discovered beneath changing conditions. Many people spend their lives searching for peace in the future. They believe peace will arrive after success, after security, after healing, after certainty, after all problems disappear. Yet what if peace has never been hiding in the future? What if peace has always existed beneath the noise? Imagine the surface of a lake during a storm. Wind creates waves. Rain disturbs the water. The surface becomes chaotic. Looking only at the top of the lake, one might assume turbulence exists everywhere. Yet beneath the surface, deeper waters remain relatively still. The human mind is often similar. Thoughts move. Emotions move. Experiences move. Fear moves. Hope moves. Joy moves. Grief moves. Everything changes. Yet beneath all of these movements, there is an awareness capable of witnessing them. A stillness that is not destroyed by temporary storms. A quiet presence that remains available even when life becomes complicated. Meditation traditions have pointed toward this truth for centuries. Not because they are trying to escape life. Not because they are trying to suppress emotions. But because they recognize something important. You are not every thought that passes through your mind. You are not every fear. You are not every worry. You are not every story your anxious brain creates. Thoughts arise. Thoughts pass. Emotions arise. Emotions pass. Experiences arise. Experiences pass. Like clouds moving across the sky itself remains. Sometimes people spend years trying to eliminate every cloud before they can feel peaceful. Yet peace becomes more accessible when we realize we are the sky, not the weather. This understanding does not remove difficulties from life. Challenges will still appear. Losses will still occur. Uncertainty will still exist. But our relationship with them begins to change. We stop demanding permanence from an impermanent world. We stop demanding complete control over uncontrollable things. We stop postponing peace until life finally behaves exactly as we want. Instead, we begin discovering moments of peace right in the middle of ordinary life. A breath, a quiet room, a cup of tea, a conversation, a sunrise, a moment of gratitude, a pause between thoughts, a simple awareness that right now, in this moment, we are here. alive, breathing, present. As this reflection comes to its final moments, perhaps there is one thing worth remembering above all else. You do not have to solve your entire life before sleep. You do not have to figure everything out tonight. You do not need perfect certainty. You do not need complete control. You do not need answers to every question. The future can wait until morning. The unfinished conversation can wait until morning. The decision can wait until morning. The uncertainty can wait until morning. Life itself can continue unfolding one step at a time. And perhaps the deepest act of wisdom available right now is not another attempt to think your way into peace. Perhaps it is allowing yourself to rest without conditions. To rest even if questions remain. To rest even if healing is incomplete. To rest even if life is still unfolding. To rest because you are human. To rest because your heart has carried enough for one day. To rest because peace is not something you must earn. To rest because stillness has been waiting beneath the noise all along. So let the shoulders soften. Let the jaw relax. Let the breath become easy. Let tomorrow remain where it belongs. Let the night be the night. And let the heart, for a little while, rest in the quiet stillness that has always been here, patiently waiting underneath everything else. If this reflection spoke to your heart, share in the comments one thing you are learning to let go of. And if you'd like more peaceful Buddhist wisdom before sleep, consider subscribing and sharing this video with someone who may need it tonight.